A disturbing legislative motion in Canada has recently been a topic of debate in the House of Commons. At risk, the most foundational and sacred legal core of Western civilized values, and that of the progress of the human species, is currently being put to the test by Justin Trudeau's Liberal government. Iqra Khalid, a member of the House of Commons representing Mississauga Erin Mills, Ontario, has presented this statement to Canadians.
I'm honored to bring forward Motion 103, calling on our government to condemn Islamophobia and work towards eliminating all forms of systemic racism and religious discrimination.
So that's unacceptable. You're not allowed to go out. You're not allowed to condemn something. You're not allowed to be critical of it. I mean, be rude about it, to say anything negatively about it and hurt feelings. I mean, hurting feelings and making people feel vulnerable is unacceptable. So you have to eliminate that from debate. That's what they're saying. And the minister here, the minister, I believe, of multiculturalism heritage, he clarifies this statement. He said he's going to say, I'm going to show you, he's going to say that they like debate, they want to discuss things, but if you're angry, if you're going to talk with rudeness and hatred in your voice, and you're going to be coarse and harsh and all of that, you have to be silenced. You can't talk. Leave this to the Ivy League professors. Leave this to the parliamentarians. Leave this to the intellectuals. But you, little guy on the street, you're not allowed to talk because you're the little guy on the street is frustrated. I think they're frustrated to see your average Canadian see changes in their culture, and there's going to be frustration. So anyway, here you go.
But fostering an inclusive and compassionate Canada that we aspire to, where difference is not only tolerated but celebrated, Mr. Speaker, requires vigilance. It requires a rededication to the task of rooting out systemic racism and religious discrimination, which is precisely what this motion seeks to do. But this attempt at remaining vigilant has come up against a few objections, which I will turn to now. The first is that condemning Islamophobia will serve to limit the freedom of speech of those who have genuine concerns about Islam and its tenets. Nothing could be further from the truth, Mr. Speaker. There is nothing in this motion that would curb or limit the constitutionally protected right to freedom of expression guaranteed under Section 2B of the Charter. But let me go further. I know that we as Canadians, Mr. Speaker, will never be able to truly overcome intolerance and build a more inclusive country unless we are able to have candid, open, and respectful discussions about the challenges presented by a changing and rapidly diversifying population, and pose honest questions. As a Muslim, I have those questions myself, Mr. Speaker, and I pose them regularly to religious leaders in my own community. But make no mistake, M103 is not about limiting respectful discussion, Mr. Speaker. It is about curbing hatred. M103 is about all members of this House standing up and affirming that racism and discrimination, whether it be towards Muslims, Jews, Black Canadians, or Indigenous groups, or any others, runs contrary to the values we hold dear as Canadians.
So he's saying that we have to be vigilant in routing out systemic racism and religious discrimination. So we're going to be using the power of the state. We're going to be using its prisons and its guns, right? Fines, whatever. Maybe it'll be something small like 20 days in jail or something. That's not small. But the point of the matter is that he's not making a suggestion here. He's not saying, hey, look, we need to be peaceful, we need to be respectful of each other, and try really hard to put emotions aside and to bring up logical arguments that are respectful of one another, and that's fine. But what he's saying is that no, if you're going to be rude, if you're going to be mean, if you're going to be hateful, if you're going to be racially discriminating, you're going to say things that harm our feelings, well, then the power of the state is going to come down on you, and come down on you hard. This is what the state does, right? It's not a suggestion. They're not saying, let's be nice. It's do what we say, or you're gonna pay for it.
So you want to read the Western Standard? Fine. You don't want to? Fine. You want to watch The Rebel? Fine. You don't want to? Fine. We don't force you to pay for it, unlike the CBC does. But what happened in 2006 is a Muslim extremist named Syed Sohrawardy and another Muslim extremist group in Edmonton. Well, they didn't write a letter to the editor. They didn't try to rebut us, debate us, refute us. They ran to the government with a blasphemy complaint. There's no other way to phrase it. In 2006, it was a blasphemy complaint. In fact, if you read the hand-scrawled complaint of Syed Sohrawardy that started the whole 900-day ordeal, one of his complaints was that I not only insulted Islam, but that I insulted Mohammed himself, dead a few years now. And I got this complaint from the Alberta Human Rights Commission, a secular government organization paid for by taxpayers' dollars. I got the complaint and I said, they can't be serious. This scrawled chicken scratch citing Quranic provisions, not citing Canadian law, citing a holy book. And I thought, if this was any other religion, they would laugh it out. Or maybe they're just, this guy was born in Pakistan, maybe he doesn't. No, they're going through the rigmarole, so I restrained myself and wrote a very polite response saying, yeah, no, we're in Canada, free speech, talk to you later. Thinking it was done. It was not done. I went through 900 days of prosecution at the hands of the government of Alberta. The complainant himself didn't have to spend a dime of his own money, was at no jeopardy for a nuisance complaint. I can remember the law by heart. You can imagine 900 days of that ordeal. It remains against the law in Alberta to publish anything, quote, likely to expose a person to hatred or contempt. I'm going to break that down. Likely to. That's future tense. You didn't do anything, but maybe what you wrote, publishing these cartoons, may be likely to, future tense, could commit some offense. That's like that movie Minority Report, where Tom Cruise would swoop in and arrest you before you commit a crime. He said, you didn't do anything. We didn't say you did. We were about to. There's no defense to a future tense crime. But future tense what? You're going to punch someone in the nose? You were imminently to punch someone in the nose? No. Likely to expose a person to hatred or contempt. That's not even a thought crime. That is a feelings crime. Even George Orwell had not contemplated feelings crimes. Likely to expose a person to hatred or contempt.
So falling away from our values is evil. Falling away from our inalienable human rights is evil. This guy has endured evil at the hands of the Alberta Human Rights Commission, at the hands of the government. That has gone outside its legitimate sphere of control and has decided to play God in this way. I mean, this guy has the right to say what he wants to say. And so that has been violated. And, the consequences of this is that the guy started the Rebel Media afterwards. And these people who wanted to shut him down, they actually got something way worse from their perspective, right? Because the Rebel Media was a manifestation of what he was already doing, but multiplied by 10,000, because he's reaching all these people now, and it's becoming wildly popular. It blows up. This has blown up in the government's face.
So, mostly with this Peterson controversy, which is really just a small drama, a tempest in a teapot, he could just get over learning to program a few pronouns into his phone. By the way, I only have half a dozen or so that I actually use on an everyday basis, so it's not all that difficult.
Professor Peterson, sorry, Professor Peterson, I'm going to jump in because I think Professor Peterson wants to get in on that.
Yeah, well, kindness is the excuse that social justice warriors use when they want to exercise control over what other people think and say. So, if we're bandying back and forth our differences in values, I would say that the highest possible value is truth, and that one of the concomitants is that we need stringent protection for freedom of speech so that we can utter the truths that we see fit. And I think that that's a value that's much higher than kindness, for example. I mean, there's lots of situations in life where kindness in the immediate present is not the appropriate way to react at all.
But
So, for
Professor-
example, when you discipline children, you often hurt their feelings in the short term so that they can learn to behave properly in the medium to long term so that their lives go well. And so this automatic assumption that the people on the social justice warrior side of the equation are motivated only by kindness when they're also clearly motivated by power is something I find completely untenable. And I don't think that Pete's solution to program my cell phone so that I can remember what names people need to be called is a reasonable solution at all. We're actually supposed to now use electronic devices to bolster our ability to speak freely
How do
in
you
case
remember
we
names,
offend
Jordan?
someone.
Is it so difficult to remember a pronoun? You remember somebody's first name, you remember their telephone number. I mean, I think that it's
I don't
very,
remember
very
people's
true
first names
that
very easily, and I don't remember their telephone numbers very easily. And when I see a stranger, I call them by the pronoun that seems to be in accordance with their presented appearance. And
That's you
they
being
appear
lazy,
that way.
Jordan. That's you being lazy.
I mean, these people need to grow a set. You know, we need to stop fearing what to say, and that we're walking on eggshells. And you know, we got to grow up and feel. You know, people. You know, you gotta just be secure with yourself. And you know, if you're gonna be set into a depressive rage or something like that, if whenever somebody just speaks ill of you, or you know calls you a bad word or something like that, and you have to go and you have to shut down, you know, such a huge array of voices in the population, you're going to quell truth, and you are going to quell truth, because in this case, you know, people are going to become more fearful of speaking out, and this is and truth can only come through the presentation of ideas. And if you violate anybody's free speech, well, then people have an incentive to become silent out of fear of punishment. And you cannot solve problems in that way. So people have to learn how to suck it up, how to take criticism, how to take name calling, and you know, and people who name call and attack you verbally, I mean, you know, they really kind of discredit themselves anyway. So, you know, if you have a valid point to make, well, all the power to you, you know. So just we're moving down this path where we're becoming more sensitive. And you know, I don't know if this is the whole of the population or just the people who are able to have a platform and be promoted to push this anti-free speech, anti-expression, you know, let's subjugate truth and speech, free speech, to just being nice and caring to each other. You know, if that's something that's just trying to be pushed forward at, you know, some kind of level of power that we don't see on the surface, you know, for some kind of ulterior motive, is one thing. But if we lose free speech, it's over. I mean, we will become a fascist state, right? Whatever is the popular thing to do, of the people in power, of the thing that the people in power want to push, that's communism, right? It's just an ideology that can't be challenged, and people who did challenge communism in the Soviet Union or in communist China, or you know, they're punished severely, and that's communism, that's fascism, and we don't want to go down that route. The opposite form of fascism and communism and totalitarianism is being free. So it's one or the other. But if we continue to go down this path, it's not going to be good. So that's Stephen Gale, Infowars.com. Have a good day.